Hey there and welcome to another edition of Coatesman's Workshop. In this edition we're going to be covering the 110 roller. I'm going to be going over my favorite setups for this gun and what I think we should be prioritizing when it comes to setting up roller guns. My hope for this episode is not only that you get to set up your 110 really well, but you also have a better understanding of the elements that make a roller gun work. Let's dive into this next episode by starting off with answering the question of what to prioritize when setting up a roller gun. When setting up a roller gun of any kind, the elements to consider are accuracy, power, range, and handling. The most important of these is accuracy for obvious reasons. You can have all the power in the world, but if you can't hit the spot, it's pointless. Accuracy is the golden key to any magic setup and is your first priority. However, most guys focus on power and range when setting up roller guns and just assume because it's a roller gun that it'll be accurate. Another problem with having power and range as your focus when setting up guns is not paying attention to how the gun handles in the water. Recoil, weight, and maneuverability all affect how the gun feels. This might seem insignificant to some, but how the gun handles affects accuracy. The recoil will affect the gun's accuracy, but how the gun handles will affect your accuracy. It's in the way you and the guns interact. Heavy and cumbersome guns affect your agility, and agility will affect your reaction time. The faster you can take advantage of a situation, the greater your options and opportunities are going to be to have a good shot. When things are smooth and predictable, it's easy to be comfortable and find confidence in your gear. Confidence is another key element to accuracy. This is the accuracy you as a diver develop over time, enabling those quick, instinctive, lethal shots. So when you have accuracy as a starting point when deciding on a setup, you'll also need to prioritize how the gun feels and handles over how much power and range it will have. Work within the power and range that a good setup can give you and not the other way around. Using this philosophy on gun setups, let's take a look at the 110 single roller. As always, when talking about gun setups, buoyancy is the most critical. Remember all the components, the handle, the reel, the muzzle, the shaft, the overhang, all these things are the same on a gun. The only difference is that your barrel length and buoyancy will change. So the longer the barrel, the greater the buoyancy of the gun. In the previous video, the 900's buoyancy is best suited to a 6.6mm shaft. Now with the 110, the extra buoyancy enables you to be comfortable with a 7mm shaft and will now even give you an option with a 7.5mm shaft. This also means that you can go aluminium as the gun floats with a spear out, but it is still heavy in the water with a 7mm shaft. Definitely not a favorite of mine, but it does work, and the heavy barrel does actually assist with the absorption of recoil. So now with this 110, you have two shaft options, a 7mm and a 7.5. Let's look at the rubber setups for both those shaft options. My personal favorite is a 7mm shaft with 14mm hand load rubbers. Using the same rubber length formula that I used for the 900, you divide the barrel length in half and plus 5. So with this gun, it's 55 centimeters plus 5 gives you 60 centimeters, which is 366% when fully loaded. This will give you about 19 kilos on the muzzle and 40 kilos on the notch. If you like the 900, this one's even better. This has been my go-to gun at home for years. The only time I don't use it is when I'm targeting wahoo and kuda in very clean water. That is the domain of the 120, and I'll be covering that in the next video. This 110 for me is an ideal all-rounder. It's a fantastic reef gun. It's quick, accurate, and small enough to make hunting on the reef a pleasure, but with enough power and range to take down fairly large pelagics. A few summers back, my son Braden used this exact same gun with same setup for kuda. He got some incredible fish, including a 24 kilo kuda, so I guess the proof is in the pudding. For me, the big sell is the hand load. For situations where speed of loading is essential, then this is the gun. When you consider the weight, ease of use, and accuracy of the 7mm setup on the 110, it is the perfect in-betweener between your 900, which is kind of your reef gun, and your open water gun. Now let's look at the 7.5mm and 16mm band setup using a load assist. This gun is heavier than the 7mm shaft option in the water, but has exceptional power and range. Using the same easy rubber formula as before, half barrel plus 5 is 60 centimeters, 366% when fully loaded. This will give you about 25 kilos on the muzzle and 50 kilos on the notch. This will mean that you'll be unable to hand load it and will need a load assist. Using a 60 centimeter long 16mm rubber will give you 30% more power than the 14mm bands. So you can go up to a 7.5mm shaft. You'll need to keep this shaft at a standard length of 1.5 meters, otherwise it will start to slow down with the extra weight. This gun would be a favorite if it wasn't for the fact that it's a little heavy in the water and starts to have that angry feel about it when you take a shot. Not that it has much recoil, but it does have a tiny bit compared to the 14mm setup. It has really good penetration at range with a 7.5mm shaft and would probably be my first choice when hunting in low vis with big fish like darga or mulloway salmon. But for reefies, this gun is overkill. You constantly have to be waiting for the reef fish to move up off the reef so you don't hit the rocks behind it. So personally, I prefer to keep my 110 with the light setup and opt to go up to a 120 if I need an open water option or something with more power and range than the light 7mm and 14mm band option on this 110. Now I understand that these setups and observation will be made in certain diving conditions. I dive in mostly water that's between 19 and 26 degrees, which with viz up to 20 plus meters. Those of you that are in colder climates, more like the 10 to 19 degrees, your rubber's not going to respond the same way as mine does. So go up to, if you're in a really cold environment, go up to 16mm bands as with the 7.5mm shaft setup. But remember, because you're in colder water, your bands aren't going to give the same amount of energy. So if you feel a 7.5mm shaft is either a little slow or dropping, then go to the 7mm shaft, which will be a lot quicker. If you're wanting to hand load your 16mm rubbers, please have a look at my videos on standard versus full pretension and load assists. As a basic rule, you should never be hand loading a 16mm rubber. They're either very difficult to load or have compromised performance just so that you can hand load them. So that's a wrap on the 110. Let's do a quick recap. The 110 has more buoyancy than the 900, so is well balanced with a 7mm shaft and can even take a 7.5. If you have an aluminium barrel, you can take a 7mm shaft, no problem. 7.5mm shaft is going to be very heavy, but it does work. My favorite is a 7mm shaft with 14mm rubbers with the easy formula of half barrel plus 5, which is 60 centimeters, which gives me 366% loaded on the notch. That's 19 kgs on the muzzle, which is pretty easy to load, and 40 kilos on the notch. So you're not going to be seeing stars when you load this gun. This is the best balanced setup I've found on a carbon Robellin. It's quick and easy to load. It's fast and accurate. A great all-round option for both reef and medium-sized pelagics. This 110 with a 16mm and 7.5mm shaft option packs a real punch, and I suspect the guys who have 6-liter V8s in their daily commuters will pick this option. Why? Well, just because they can, I guess. The easy formula of 60 centimeters of the 16mm band will give you 25 kgs on the muzzle, which will mean that you will need a load assist, and will load 50 kilos on the notch, so it's not too difficult. This is a great gun for big tough fish where a short gun is necessary. And don't forget, adjust for cold water. The 16mm band option is probably what you're going to go for if you're in really cold water. And if your shaft is a little bit slower than 7.5, go down to 7mm, it'll still work. But remember, keep it short, keep it at 1.5 meters, don't go any longer. Lastly, remember what are the priorities when setting up a gun. Accuracy and handling will always trump power and range. Also be more realistic with your expectations of a gun's performance. This is absolutely key, especially for those getting into rollers. Start with setups that are geared towards accuracy and feel and not power and range. Learn to enjoy the real benefits of a roller's lack of recoil and fast, smooth, flat shots. From there, you can experiment and tweak your setup, but you'll always have a reference point of how a gun should feel. When you feel you need more power and range, try the 16mm bands and 7mm shaft. Personally, I've always opted to go for a longer gun than trying to make a short gun have more power and range. This way I keep all my guns set up for optimum handling and accuracy. This leads me to the next video, and that's on the 120 roller and my favorite setups for this giant killing gun. I hope this episode has been helpful. Please subscribe and hit the like button. It really does help. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.